You know that feeling after watching a movie where you almost feel exhausted? Like you've just been pulled through something for 2 hours straight without a single moment to catch your breath, let alone think? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on that feeling. We're diving into how a combination of filmmaking tricks and the very platforms we use have gotten incredibly good at engineering our attention.
Right? It's this sense of constant, forward motion. It's like being on a bullet train that never stops, where every single view is perfectly framed to keep you locked in. And you're not imagining it. This feeling is not an accident. It's the end result of some very deliberate choices in how movies are made and delivered to us. So let's break down how this machine actually works. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the most basic building block of a film, the cut, and see how its job has totally changed. Then we'll zoom out to see how streaming platforms turned our living rooms into part of the machine. That leads us to why so many movies today feel so polished and safe. And finally, we'll look at how artists are fighting back and why a good hard stop is more important than ever. First up, the cut. So, let's talk about the cut. I mean the edit. The moment one shot ends and another begins. It used to be a tool to make you stop and think, a real boundary. But somewhere along the line, it turned into something else entirely, more like a smooth, silent conveyor belt for your eyes. Think of it like this. In early cinema, you had montage. The whole point was to slam two different images together, a collision, that would force your brain to create a new idea. It was an interruption by design. But today, we mostly live in the world of intensified continuity. And its goal is the exact opposite. To create a momentum so smooth, so seamless, that your attention is just carried from one shot to the next without any friction and without you even noticing. So how do they pull this off? Well, it's a whole cocktail of techniques. The shots are getting shorter and shorter, sometimes just a second or two. The camera's always pushing in closer, framing things tightly so you know exactly what to look at. And the camera itself is almost always moving, creating this constant feeling that we're heading somewhere. It all adds up to what some call turbocharged coherence, where everything is so easy to understand you don't even have to try. And this metaphor just hits the nail on the head. It's like being in a huge moving crowd. In theory, you're free. You could stop. You could turn around. But in reality, the sheer force and flow of the crowd is just going to carry you forward. You're swept up in it. Okay, but what happens inside the movie is only one part of the story, because the way we watch movies has been completely transformed too. And this is where our own living rooms become part of what's called cinema's optimization pipeline. I mean, just think about the evolution. Cinema started as a public event. You went to a theater at a specific time, the lights went down, and when the credits rolled, it was over. Then home video came along, turning a movie into an object you could own and control. You could pause it, rewind it, but now we're in the age of the stream, a never-ending, personalized flow that is constantly being measured and tweaked based on our behavior. And this is the absolute key. The platform itself, the Netflix or Disney Plus interface, is now part of the filmmaking process. That personalized thumbnail that grabbed you, the skip intro button, the way the next episode starts before the credits even finish, none of that is by accident. It's all designed to eliminate stopping points. In this system, an ending isn't an artistic statement, it's a problem, an inefficiency that needs to be solved.
So what's the consequence of building a whole system designed to keep us watching forever? Well, you get something the source material calls the dictatorship of surface. It's a system that starts to reward a certain kind of hyper-polished, super slick, and totally frictionless style above anything else.
When your movie has to be instantly appealing and easily understood by a global audience, the system naturally starts to prefer a certain kind of look. It wants things that are instantly legible, that don't require any work from the viewer. Anything with rough edges, ambiguity, or friction gets smoothed over. The shiny surface starts to become more important than what's underneath. And just to be clear, this isn't some grand conspiracy. It's just a bunch of different incentives all pointing in the same direction. Technologically, we have digital tools that can literally erase any imperfection. Economically, if you're building a massive franchise, you need every movie to have a consistent look and feel. And culturally, a clean, simple, visual style just travels better and is easier to market around the world than something complex or weird. Okay, so it might sound a little bleak, but is there a way out? Of course there is. Artists are always finding ways to push back against the system. And that brings us to the techniques of resistance. A whole toolkit designed to do the opposite of everything we've talked about, to make the familiar feel strange again. The core concept here is called estrangement. And it's not about being weird just for the sake of it. It's a very specific artistic strategy to break our habit of just passively consuming what's on screen. The whole point is to interrupt the flow, on purpose, to make you suddenly aware of the fact that you are watching a movie.
I think this quote just captures it perfectly. When a filmmaker uses these techniques well, you don't get pulled out of the movie. Instead, you suddenly become aware of the tracks. You can feel the machinery that's guiding you. You're not just watching the story, you're watching how the story is being told.
And there are so many ways to do this. It could be in an actor's performance. Maybe they deliver a line in a way that feels just a little off. It could be in the camera work, holding on a shot for an uncomfortably long time. It could be breaking the story into chapters, or using a sound design that constantly reminds you that what you're seeing isn't real. It's all about revealing the construction. Which brings us full circle right back to our central idea of the cut. To fight back against becoming just another seamless part of an endless stream, cinema needs boundaries. It needs stopping points. It needs cuts, in the biggest sense of that word.
A cut here can be so much more than just an edit. A formal boundary could be a jarring transition that makes you sit up and pay attention. A narrative boundary can be a story that has a real definitive ending, one that doesn't just exist to set up the sequel. And an institutional boundary is just our cultural agreement that it's okay for things to stop, to have an ending, to not be available 24/7.
So this is really the bottom line. These boundaries, these cuts, are what protect the space we need to think. Without them, cinema is in danger of just becoming more content, another tile in an infinite scroll, endlessly optimized to hold our attention for just one more minute.
So that's the big takeaway. We've got this powerful system of seamless editing and optimized platforms designed to give us a relentless, frictionless ride. But we've also got artists using all kinds of techniques to push back and make us aware of the machine. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you sit down to watch something, will you just be along for the ride, or will you be able to sense the rails under the train?